covered by rubble. Just my head and one hoof sticking out from under the wood. I had been lucky. If it had been anything heavier than the table sheltering me that had struck my head, well, that would have been it. Sitting back from the frankly haunting image of my own crushed body, I simply tried to prevent myself from breathing too quickly again. Sunny glanced from behind me on the sofa, where she had watched me draw numerous pictures and listened to my scattered thoughts and memories. Over the course of the exercise, I had slowly began to feel a little less nervous about Kkat sitting softly against me. The canine didn't seem to be dangerous, even if I did still shiver every time she moved. Wiping my eyes, I felt her dig into me and curl up around my back hooves. "She's glad you're up. Really, Ktat's the one who saved your life. You may not like dogs, but I can tell you, she don't do that for just any pony. Most folks are too filled with harsh thoughts and anger. Dogs can sense that." "Whereas I'm just a weak, sick, and hated Pegasus," I muttered quietly. Sunny tutted. "All right, can that rubbish. Not every pony hates Pegasi. Sure, the vast majority of slaves might after Red Eye used 'em as a scapegoat to keep common ground in there. But look at how many ponies don't judge you for it that you've met. Besides, if a dog thinks you're great, don't ask for a second opinion. Now, come on." "Huh?" I twisted, seeing Sunny get up and grab her rifle, donning her hat. She shook herself out after being hunched up so long. "Well, we gotta get you ready to go find that gal, don't we? Can't have you wandering back around Philly's outskirts, raid a friend or no, without you being able to shoot back. They are still out there searching, so they've likely got her in a wagon or something still. That stallion leading them hasn't let any pony go back to Philly yet, so your friend must still be out there. We'll go get, what was it, Brimstone? We'll get him. Then the four of us will go hunting. I'm tired of sitting around on the sidelines if there's ponies out there." Kkat was with her master immediately, bounding around her hooves rapidly, impatiently even. Rather, to my own surprise, I felt a little hope begin to filter in. The escape was still on. We could still all get out. Gathering my things into my saddlebag, I adjusted my fleece and began limping after her. Pip-Buck and Goggles went into the saddlebag, my hoof and forehead still being far too painful right now to wear them. We headed towards the door and Doc Minstrel arrived home. The moment we had left to go to the door, I heard it open. So much for that moment of dramatic striding onward. I hadn't even gotten to see the door itself.
"Sonny?
"Just heading out to get our new friend Tot, Doc."
We're not going out, Sonny. Put your rifle down and lock Ktat in the kitchen."
Her face seemed puzzled, but Minstrel's voice was quieter, slightly pleading with her to just do as he said. "Doc?"
"Now, Sonny, just head into the kitchen. I've already made arrangements. We're going home soon. Back to the others we know."
"Doc, what are you talking about?" Sunny looked about ready to burst with indignation. Ktat stood by her side, eyes fixed, before barking suddenly toward the corridor, as I heard multiple heavy treads enter.
"What the good doctor means."
My forehead seared in pain, making me squeal suddenly until the throbbing subsided, pleading internally. "No, please, no, don't let me open my eyes and this be true. No, 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 no." He was here, impossible as it seemed. He was standing right before me. 2 slavers flanked him with weapons drawn.
"Is that he understands when property should be returned to its rightful master."
Striding into the room, his filthy hooves from hours of trekking around Philadelphia left a trail behind them, and his rotten teeth showed through his grin when he saw me backing into a corner. A stubby shotgun hung by his side, his hard leather whip at the other. Segmented plate armor creaked as he rounded past the sofa. Sunny hopped to the side, between me and him, rifle drawn. Immediately, the master's 2 attendants pulled their own pistols and aimed for her. Ktat pawed at the floor, growling incessantly at the master, baring her teeth. He just cackled, reaching a hoof to pet her and pulling it with a laugh when she snapped at it. "Doc, what is this? What have you done?" Minstrel stood at the back, near the corridor, with sad eyes.
"I've always said it. I need to get back to my love. I even told him I'd sell anything to finally achieve that. Well, Pegasi are a valued asset to Red Eye. I sought them out and made a deal. 700 caps. He is willing to pay, along with a guarantee of safe passage out of Red Eye's territory.
Sunny growled, hunching down as she bit back at him. You healed him! Saved his life! How could you betray every dream of his like this? You always took care of ponies.
He's not worth anything dead. Come on, Sonny. You know he'd be dead in a day out there. The stupid buck doesn't even know how to think for himself. Not to mention he was traveling with the warlord that killed my hometown back in Ponyville years ago. He's safer with Red Eye, where at least he gets fed and directed.
He sounded only partially convinced, but Sunny broke the back of a chair with her enraged hoof slamming down on it. I spent years with you. Just for this? The master stared into the barrel of her gun without fear, just grinning at their exchange. Yet his eyes never left mine, boring silently into my mind as Minstrel and Sunny argued. I could feel the sensation of those chains that held me in slavery tightening again.
Come on home, number 7. You know it's where you belong. Now let's just have you trot outside. We'll even give you a lift in the wagon. Won't that be nice?
No.
Step forward, number 7.
No. He narrowed his eyes, stomping the floor hard enough to make Cayenne bark in offense, and every ornament on every shelf clatter and shake. One hoof pulled the whip toward his mouth.
Step forward, number 7.
I tried. I honestly tried to force my mind so far in I might wake up from some nightmare or forget everything again. The lash struck me right on my face, on top of my newly healed skull. Pain greater than any single blow before ripped through my head, drawing me right back into his world. Collapsing on the floor before him, staggering forward on instinct, I whimpered and lowered my head. A huge hoof of his flipped me over, letting him glare directly down at me. Spittle from his foaming rage dripped and landed around my neck, but the furious expression calmed, laughing instead. I saw his cronies back Sunny into the corner.
You and I, number 7, we're meant to be together. Here's more proof than ever.
The cracked and filthy hoof traced the scar. I could see his almost identical one, running from left ear to above his left eye. Leaning down, he brought his face close enough that I could feel his very breath upon me.
But don't think for 1 second you're not going to be punished for this. You despicable little worm. Trying to escape me, huh? Thought you could escape me, huh? You won't ever get away, little runt. You're mine. No matter how far you scamper, the chains will always pull you back. I'd hunt you to the ends of the world if I had to.
Please, I'm...
I didn't say you could speak, slave.
The hoof rose, aiming to slam down upon my chest. I curled up and screamed, yet, instead, a dark brown blur hurled itself at his neck, growling and biting deeply. Roaring in anger, the master backed off, shaking and tossing Cayenne as she sunk her teeth hard into his front leg. Distracted, his slavers found their guns knocked aside. Sunny's small rifle made a disproportionately loud bang, sending one slaver reeling and screaming, holding his bleeding neck. Bucking the other aside, Sunny grabbed me, pulling me to my hooves. Get downstairs, Murky. Go! Shoving me, I staggered and almost fell as the master slammed into me. His bulk knocked me clean across the room into the kitchen, while he fought with the grimly thrashing dog that had locked onto him. Cayenne was rotating her biting, trying to find purchase under his armor, staying away from his hooves. Turning, I saw a fallen kitchen knife and grabbed it with my mouth. He was distracted. I couldn't. He was my master. You didn't attack your master. What might he do if I didn't get away and I'd stabbed him? I ran instead. Sunny ushered me along, her rifle booming a second time in the enclosed space, missing the second slaver when he ducked behind the sofa I'd woken up on. Half pulled, half galloping, I found myself directed to a small door that opened up to the cellar. Get down. They'll have some pony at the door, I bet. Cayenne! Heel, girl! Taking aim with her rifle, she made sure the other slaver kept his head down. I could see Minstrel lying on the floor, looking shocked and bewildered beyond words. Glancing across, he tried to mouth something, but just looked away. Cayenne ripped once more, sending a spurt of blood across the table and making the master bellow in pain. His hooves lashed out, slapping the dog away from him. Falling on her side, Cayenne furiously thrashed her legs to get up. One of Sunny's shots smacked into the master's side. I saw a round ricochet off one of the heavy metal plates. He didn't even look staggered, instead snarling and drawing the small shotgun. Back! Sunny pushed us both into the cellar staircase as the deafening brutal boom sent a dozen pieces of buckshot tearing into the wrinkled wallpaper beside the door, blowing it back open again.
You can't run, slave. You can't escape me.
Sunny fired blind around the corner, before swearing and trying to dig out more ammunition. I realized her saddlebag was still in the sitting room. Cayenne! Heel! I heard the dog launch herself at the master again, attacking in a frenzy. I couldn't see into the room from the stairway, but I heard snapping and skittering of paws.
Pathetic animal! Down!
I didn't see the shotgun's blast, but I heard it roar, punctuated by one short, sharp whine that died out as a small weight hit the ground. Freezing solid, I glanced back upward. Sunny's eyes were wet, before a blinding rage overtook her. Screaming in incoherent fury, she slammed the door shut and slid a heavy metal bar across it. I'm going to kill him, Merc. The master was still stomping around, before the door bent inward with a dull thud. Go downstairs! He isn't getting you! He isn't! We galloped down, finding a small living area with a bed and a dog basket. Presumably this was Sunny's own space. It was Spartan, but cozy below ground, occupied by old books, magazines, and maps, with a cleaning kit spread on a desk. An old spark lantern swung on each brutal impact from behind us on the door.
You hear me, number 7?
His harsh blow on the door sounded like it snapped a piece of wood in the frame. Dust fell from the roof in trickles, shaken loose by the savage impacts.
You belong to me!
Every time I heard that, my body wanted to rush to obey. Without Sunny, I might have simply stood waiting. She swept possessions into her saddlebag, slung a waterskin around her from where it lay on the post on her bed, before opening a drawer and grabbing more ammunition. Already I could see a storm door that opened upwards into the backyard of the house. I keep that thing covered from the outside. They shouldn't have it guarded. There's a zip line on the nearest tall building to the south I used to move into the suburbs near the bank quicker. Should support both of us. We're getting out. Now or later, I don't care. But he will die. Testing the door, I found it easy to open, before resting against it to wait for Sunny to grab her things. My heart was beating and my head throbbed on every crunch of the door upstairs. I'm sorry. I've ruined everything for you. Shut up. The doc ruined it for himself. The stupid bastard! Ah! She bucked the desk's chair in sheer frustration, splintering it against the wall. Throwing her saddlebag over her back, she picked up her rifle and began reloading. Sunny, why are you helping me? It was a stupid question. A stupid time to ask it. But I needed conversation. Anything to keep my mind off of...
I am your master slave. Come out!
That. If I listened too much, I might believe it. Few reasons, really. 1. No pony deserves to be a slave way I see it. 2 rounds fed into her rifle. 2. Doc betrayed me as much as you in doing this. 2 more rounds slotted in, each with a satisfying click. 3. She hesitated, before opening a nearby drawer and lifting something else out. I couldn't quite see, but she opened her saddlebag, stopping with it in sight just before adding it in. Half gasping, I just pointed my hoof disbelievingly. She didn't smile, but spoke with resolution. Let's just say there's a little filly who still owes you one for this. She held a full stuffed toy, weathered all the more with age, before gently setting it in her travel bag. You? I heard you screaming when they punished you, Murk. Tried to tell my folks to turn back, buy you or something, so you could live with us. But nothing. Look, I don't believe a lot in the magic of friendship stuff they talk about, but life's throwing me a bone here. I guess I see this as a chance to finally do something about it. Part of me felt offended. How could I not have more time to talk about this? To get to know her properly before we galloped out together? Why couldn't I ever have time to properly meet any pony? This was too fast, too sudden. Thank you, Sonny. Well, we'll talk later, on the road. But now? As though dropping the subject, she slid the final 2 rounds into her rifle. Gonna give that big bastard something to sting before I go, at least. Trotting over, she took aim at the door from the bottom of the stairs. The master was bucking it hard enough to make the entire room vibrate. Wood splintered. Her lantern fell from the ceiling, giving everything a strange look of being lit from below when it smashed open and revealed the glowing element within. This is for Cayenne, you son of a... bitch. Even before she could depress the trigger, the shotgun's buckshot tore through the wood from above. It flew downstairs in a swarm of hot metal, taking Sunny clean off her feet. My mouth dropped, screaming her name as I saw blood fly from her side, and heard the painfully slow sound of her rifle dropping to the ground. Creaking, straining. The stairs barely supported the master's weight as he descended. Step by slow step, even with Sunny lying groaning at the bottom, his eyes were fixed on me the entire way. My muscles felt frozen. The way out was right behind me. I could just go.
Stand still, slave.
And I did. Reaching the bottom of the stairs, his gaze averted for just enough to glance at Sunny and press a huge hoof down on her leg, stretching to her rifle. Exerting his huge bulk and weight, I heard her groan in pain as her leg was held down by the joint.
You shot at me. You defied me. Yet you lived within my reach. You weren't free. You weren't ever free. Minstrel has been on our payroll to hand over any escaping slaves for years. You were just his little toy, even if he was a soft one. Just as I've come to reclaim mine. Isn't that right, number 7?
I just squeaked, trying to find the willpower to shake my head. Even 10 feet away across the room he held an air of authority, that everlasting and unbroken chain on his flanks, the chain links identical to my own. It felt tighter than ever around some unreal part of my mind. It felt like his ownership by right of fate. He looked down at Sunny again, relishing as she gasped in pain under his massive hoof pressing down upon one of the buckshot wounds. Fuck you.
Cute. You're going to die, Mare. Unless, of course, the slave can save your life. Tell me, number 7.
He turned back to me.
What is one good reason to spare her?
My mind was racing, not thinking straight. I wanted to run or cower, beg and plead, or just... I didn't know and...
Too slow.
The shotgun arced out, planting it in her mouth and holding it upright with a hoof.
Try again.
I'll...
Too slow, slave. Again. You know how this works. Now do as you're instructed.
His game was simple. He wanted to force me to obey. The threat of that shotgun pressing painfully into Sunny's mouth was too much. I had no choice. I'll come back! I screamed it, pain welling in my heart as I felt everything I had worked toward and fought for come crashing down ever since we ran from that stable. I'll come back with you back home. You don't want our deaths. You want our lives. The master grinned. Oh, that grin. Those cracked and rotting teeth smiling right at me as the barrel lifted from her mouth. With a bellow, he called the slaver-watching minstrel down behind him and threw the subordinate a set of shackles.
Put them on her. She's my stock now, not the upstart's. I'm sure she'll fit in well.
His eyes focused on me. A sick lick of his lips accompanied a leering small glance to the side at the shaking but stern mare below him. He opened a pouch and dumped a second set of shackles and collar upon the floor. The latter linked to the leather harness on his armor by a thick chain. The slaver was already fitting the shackles to Sunny. I could see her struggling to move, to resist, but blood loss and shock was setting in fast. Her eyes were glazed over. She couldn't do anything. Cayenne was dead. I was alone. Under my master's watchful gaze, I dutifully trotted forward. Of course he had come for me. I had no say in anything. I was just his slave, his ever-loyal. My eyes fell upon Sunny once more. Her blood was leaking from a dozen holes. I didn't think it anything fatal, but it was utterly crippling from pain and injury. It was just like the master to use such a weapon. She had tried to help me, to save me, yet I couldn't help her now as she was dragged toward the stairs to be the master's slave, condemned from her free life into a world of poisoned air, scorching industry, and backbreaking abuse. I was no hero to stop them. I couldn't rescue her. I was just one little pony.
Rules of Philadelphia number 7. You bring a slave in, or you recover an escaped one. You keep him for your stock. The upstart got you that way, but both of you are mine now. Put them on.
Against all willpower, I trotted forward. Reaching for the shackles, I lifted the collar and held it ready to slip around my head. My master commanded. I had to obey. Lying on the floor, my eyes spotted the stuffed toy lying from Sunny's spilled bag. The slaver had carted her away, but this was still lying here. She wouldn't want me to give up. She'd risked herself just to stay true to her belief of freedom being the rightful virtue of all ponies. I felt my hooves begin to back off.
Stay where you are.
Now! I had to go now, before the terror clenched my heart. He had killed or enslaved those who tried to save me. What would he do to me? I felt so sorry for Sunny in my heart, as though she could hear my thoughts. I promised her that if I could find Brimstone, we would try to save both her and Glimmer before they got to that city.
Stay still, slave!
I heard him canter toward me, thumping across the floor, drawing the whip. No time to think, no time to grieve or worry or plan or falter and worry. I just had to dare. Spinning, I galloped toward the door, hurling myself up and through it, even as I heard the master gallop after me. Hopping up, I tried to pull myself from the vertical doorway and out into the wastes. The whip lashed out, striking across my rump. Screaming, I rolled out, fighting to push myself onwards. Behind me, the doors exploded open as the master began pulling his more considerable weight through the small space. I had time. I had to run to... No. Oh, no. I was not many miles from Philadelphia, as Minstrel had claimed. He had lied about that, too. The red haze in the clouds surrounded by the housing areas wrecked by the balefire and crumbling around me. Minstrel's house was little more than a couple miles from Philadelphia's walls. I could still see them, even if we were far outside Red Eye's domain. The window covers had hid it. Suddenly I understood the insistence that I stay inside. He had played me from the very start. Without thinking, I simply galloped forward. Around me I could hear slavers trotting to and fro. The master behind me, after struggling with the small opening, had retreated back inside. I could hear him screaming to his subordinates to get hunting to catch me. Hidden in swaths of smoke and smog, I could see wagons full of slavers spreading out. Shouts as some saw me grew into a mad dash of a dozen slavers from the front of the house. I was surrounded. No, wait. What had Sunny said? She had a zipline on the highest building that led near the bank. That was where Brimstone was waiting. He could destroy these ponies, and then we'd get Glimmer and Sunny back. I glanced around, panicking, pacing from hoof to hoof on the spot, and whining as I looked for the tallest nearby building.
Get him! That little slave's life is mine, you hear? He's south. Go!
Storming out the front of the house, I saw the master turn and see me. A dozen slavers looked around or piled out behind him. Shrieking, I fled across Minstrel's garden, winding around random junk before hopping onto and over an old bench to have enough height to jump the fence. Scampering, I headed into the thin lanes between houses as I made for what looked like an old mill that towered above every other nearby building. That had to be it! No zipline was visible in the hazy air of Philadelphia, but there was no other choice. Behind me, slavers thrashing and ripping at fences to tear them apart lit a panic in my heart. Others were pulling up in towed wagons a street over. Or 2 streets? I couldn't think. Just run!
There he is! Come on! Shackles will have our flanks if we don't get him! Stop there, you little runt!
Shrieking, I saw more slavers, clad in ragged cloth, come galloping down the side alley. How many were there? Why did he want me so much? I kept going, hearing them skittering around the corner behind me, kicking dustbins and trying to weave around obstacles. I dared not even look, even as I heard their hooves become irregular amidst a barrage of swearing whenever they tried to catch up. They weren't even armed with guns. They didn't need to be for me. Oh, Brimstone, please be waiting. Don't go wrong. Please don't go wrong. Ducking around a corner, I stopped just long enough to get my bearings. The mill was 100 meters away, down the street. I could see a tiny hole in the perimeter wall that I might be able to fit through, but slavers lined the roadside, searching houses and galloping to and fro. It would all come down to how fast I could gallop with a tiny head start. Steeling myself, I went for it. 1 second free, 2 seconds, 3, 4, 5. I could do this if I just got a couple more without them.
Right there! Go! Go! Grab that runt!
No! I wasn't even halfway, and already I heard the dozens of hooves clattering behind me. They screamed and hollered, threatening me with unspoken consequences if I didn't stop. Fixing my view on the small hole, I concentrated only on that. The hole. Freedom. Escape. If I could just get through that, I'd be home free in a big complex and cramped place I could sneak about, get to the roof and fly. A zipline. I'd fly away. Spurred on, ignoring my front right hoof and my shoulder screaming in pain, I dove for the hole faster than I ever thought I could run. It was a tight fit. I got my head through, hind legs kicking hard as my front hooves popped through too. Scrambling, squeezing and turning, I began to panic. Why couldn't I fit? He's stuck! Grab his legs! They galloped up. I felt hooves grasp my legs and pull. Wailing, I held myself through the hole with my front hooves, trying to push forward. I bucked madly, kicking, thrashing, and scraping. With a grinding pull, I felt my saddlebags scrape all its decoration off, stripping the butterflies away. Pull! Squealing, I felt myself pulled back into the hole by my hind legs. Whips lashed them. Hooves stomped and tugged. Again and again, stuck in the hole, I screamed and begged, desperately trying to avoid being yanked through into a rowdy gang of slavers just waiting to punish me. I wanted to go, to escape, to fly, without wings. Gritting my teeth, my thoughts firmly on her waiting for me. She had shown me the virtue of freedom, the determination you had to have. I tugged my hind legs back and bucked for all I was worth. The sickening crunch of teeth shattering, mixed with a high-pitched shriek as I felt my hind legs come free. Pushing through, I felt my heart sink as I saw them covered in lash marks that bled and welted. Adrenaline was all I had left. Adrenaline and faith. I ran into the mill. Around me I heard gates being thrown or broken open. This was a one-way ticket now. I either escaped or fell to them. I could already hear some inside the facility, but there was no way for them to know I was headed up there. Bucking in a back door, I made for the emergency stairs. They'd go to the top, right? Clattering on the stone steps, I climbed flight after flight. 3 floors. 5. My stamina began to flag. Below me I heard some of them rush into the staircase. Whimpering, I forced my body to keep plodding through, step after step. thoughts of freedom racing in my mind. If I could just get on that zipline, I'd feel it. I knew it. So even as my legs turned wobbly, even as my lungs were crying out to stop, I kept pushing. They were on every level now. I could hear a voice of authority ordering them to head back down. I didn't pay it enough attention to listen too closely. It was just good for me that they thought I was lower. Then, finally, the roof access door. It was unlocked. Oh, thank goddesses. Throwing it open, I almost fell through it on the vent-ridden roof of the mill. Ahead of me, I could see the pole with the zipline on it. It was just a race to get myself tied onto it now before they got up here. Such thoughts immediately got thrown from my mind. If I had to, I'd throw myself out and just hold on for dear life rather than delay. Cantering, unable to even gallop, I staggered and meandered toward it. 30 feet, 20 feet. I could see the line heading off so far into the outskirts of the city, past barriers and fallen buildings. There was no way any pony could follow in time. Hooves clattering on the stairs echoed up from somewhere closer. Push on! Push on! A door flew open. My heart sunk as I saw it ahead of me, from the other end of the building. Wanting to scream in frustration, I was about to throw myself into a gallop until finally my teary eyes focused on the figure. "Stop right there, Merc!" With his glinting eyepiece, floating revolver held solid and true before him, and clad in his red and black battle barding, Protégé galloped out onto the roof, blocking my path to the zipline. He skidded to a halt, catching his breath before shouting desperately, "You've got half the slavers in the southern quadrant after you, Merc. Come with me. I'll get you back safely." My breath was rasping, and my lungs wheezing. I coughed hard as I staggered onward. I couldn't stop. I was too close. Blood fell to the ground, from my cough or wounds. I didn't know. "No!" I shrieked, expelling a life of frustration and hatred. I can't. Please don't do this to me again. Just let me go!" Protégé trotted to the side, blocking my approach, but his head never turned away from me. "You know I can't do that, Merc. Master Red-Eye demands—" "I want to be free!" He matched every movement I made, the revolver pointed directly at me. "I can make you free, Merc! If you do this, you'll be nothing but dead meat to the wastes. Look at what's happened! You aren't even out of Philadelphia, and already you're almost running dead. If you take this into the wastes, I promise you, you will die." "I don't care! She made me see it! She made me!" I was crying harder than I ever had. No pride in my voice, but a horrid, rasping beg. "Just step to the side! Let me go, Protégé! Please! You're kind! You've helped me! But just let me go!" Around us, the wind picked up. Swirling a red cloud of soot filled smoke out of the way, revealing to one side of us the red-hazed slave city in all its terrible glory, and on the other, the dusty expanse of the wastes. Atop the building, at the border of my dreams, I felt my entire future hang in the balance, but he just shook his head sadly. "Freedom isn't just not being in Philadelphia, Merc. I have been trying to explain that to you. There's more to it than that. Let me help you earn it. Slaving away isn't any way to be free. Not to me. Just to have one day, even an hour, where no one is controlling me. I could die happily." He lost his composure, raising his voice. "I don't want you to die, Merc. Master Red-Eye and I can help you, like he helped me. Merc, I know how you feel. I understand what it's like to—" I cut him off, tears streaming down my cheeks. "No, you're just another master like any other. I was born a slave. You have hundreds of others in there. I'm just one. Please, can't you just let me go? Just one. Why can't you understand that?" Protégé did not yield his position, blocking me from the zipline. It waved in the wind behind him, taunting with its proximity. Below us, I could hear the master bellowing for slavers to head back upstairs. I had to go now. Protege, just please, A gust of wind swept smog across the roof, choking me. Below, our manes and clothes were whipping in the wind toward the wastes, away from Philadelphia. Protege tried to keep his voice measured, but the wind was forcing him to shout. "Stand down, Merc! I know you feel you have to, but I refuse to let you kill yourself in the wastes. Stick with me. I can make you free and a better pony. Master Red-Eye is trying to help the wastes and those in it. Work with me." "Are you insane?" My voice shrieked. "Look at what he's made!" I swept my injured hoof towards Philadelphia, indicating the giant factories where hundreds, perhaps thousands of slaves were now toiling and dying slowly within. "Red-Eye is a monster! I'm sick, Protege! I'm dying because of his city! I've been tortured, shot, beaten. The masters hurt and killed those trying to help me. I got put in a pit to die. I know you're intelligent. Why can't you see this is wrong?" "Because it is. Do you think Master Red-Eye likes all this? No. But how else can the wastes be saved? You think little Pip is going to shoot every monster there is? What about Brimstone? Would she shoot him? She is not your path in life, Merc." Shutting my eyes, I shook my head frantically. "Stop it! She made me free! Open my eyes! She's everything to me!" His voice broke into a desperate cry. "Damn it, Merc! I'm trying to protect you. You're hurt. Not just physically, but inside. Bear with it a while longer. I will show you what freedom means." "You're just lying! I can be free now. I'll manage. I have friends." "You know I'm right, Merc. I plead of you. Stand down and come with me. I can still get you back inside safely, but we must move now." I could hear heavy tread on the staircase behind me, the master's shouts. I turned to look back, knowing he and the slavers would be here any minute. "Merc, please!" Turning back, sniffing, I looked beyond Protege, seeing the land of possibility, all of the freedom and dreams I had wished for my entire life, even if I hadn't realized it. One daring rush away. "I can't let you go, Merc. I cannot disobey Master Red-Eye. If you run, I will have to stop you. Don't make me do it. Don't make me, Merc, please." The world seemed to quiet down. Every flap of the fabric over the building or our clothing became lethargic and dulled. Only the shining sunset through the distant clouds seemed clear. "You don't understand it all, Protege. Some pony like you never could." Finally my tears dried, but he just shook his head. "I do, Merc. I do. Don't force it. I can help you. Put the work in. I will make you a better pony by the end of it. You can help save Equestria. But more importantly, save yourself more than going with her ever will. Let me try." He was wrong. He had to be. A slaver could never feel what I felt. I began to gallop. "Merc, stop! Don't force me! Let me be the pony who helps you, not the slaver who stops you. I can't disobey him and let you go. I can't!" Gritting my teeth, I gunned for the zipline, arcing to go around him. I could see his revolver wavering as he screamed again for me to stop. 10 feet. 7. "Merc, don't!" 5. "Merc!" 4. A single gunshot rung out across the rooftop. I felt nothing, just a rocking impact that stopped me dead in my tracks a few feet from Protege. He was sweating hard, looking as shocked as I felt behind the fading flare of his revolver. Slowly, hesitantly, and shaking, I looked down and saw the trickle of blood from the hole in my chest. It grew, spreading and staining my fleece, dripping to the floor in thick clods. No pain, but a fast numbness. I looked back up to Protege and felt tears drip from my eyes. "Please." The revolver clattered to the ground. I felt him move, catching me as I fell to the side. Once again, the darkness began to overtake me, creeping in at the side of my vision. Ahead of me, behind Protege, I could still see the wastes beckoning me, the open world. Please, His hooves held me tightly against him. One pressed over my chest as he screamed over the edge for some pony to bring potions immediately. I could feel him shaking terribly. I'm sorry, Merc. I want you to be free. I felt my head limply fall into his hooves, unconsciousness finally claiming me. But it can't be today. I'm so sorry.